In America, a police officer cannot legally frame you for a crime you didn't commit. But they can legally lie to your face, present you with fake evidence, and psychologically manipulate you into framing yourself. That isn't some obscure loophole. It is the established law of the land. We are about to break down the 50 most bizarre, shocking, and sometimes downright absurd things that law enforcement can legally do. These are the hidden rules of a game you're already playing, whether you know it or not. 1. They can seize your cash, car, or even your house without ever charging you with a crime. This isn't a movie plot. It's a very real process called civil asset forfeiture. The legal theory behind it is one of the strangest things you'll ever hear. Your property itself is accused of being involved in a crime. Not you, your stuff. So police can pull you over, find a large amount of cash you were saving for a car, and seize it on the suspicion that it's connected to illegal activity. You then have to go to court and prove your money is innocent. You have to prove your inanimate object's innocence. 2. They can lie to you during an interrogation. And we're not talking about small white lies. Police are legally permitted to lie about having evidence they don't possess, claim a non-existent eyewitness has identified you, or even falsely tell you that your accomplice has already confessed and pinned the whole thing on you. The Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld these deceptive tactics, reasoning that they are necessary to secure confessions from guilty parties. It's a high-stakes psychological chess match where one player is allowed to invent pieces and move them wherever they want. Is legally sanctioned lying a necessary tool for police, or an unacceptable tactic that endangers the innocent? 3. They can go through your trash. The second you drag that garbage can to the curb, the law says you've basically disowned it. According to California versus Greenwood, your coffee grounds, old love letters, and half-eaten Hot Pockets are now public property for police to rummage through. That trash panda outside? It might not be a raccoon, it could be a detective building a case from your pizza boxes. Your leftovers are now potential exhibits A through Z. 4. They can legally use their vehicle as a battering ram to end a car chase. It's called the pit maneuver, or pursuit intervention technique. An officer will pull alongside a fleeing vehicle and intentionally tap the rear quarter panel, causing the car to spin out and stop. While it's designed to be a non-lethal method, things can go spectacularly wrong at high speeds, turning a controlled spin into a catastrophic crash. Legally, it's often justified as a necessary risk to stop a dangerous driver, transforming a police cruiser into a 2-ton weapon on wheels. 5. They can create a fake social media profile to befriend you and gather information. That new friend request from someone with a generic profile picture and a suspiciously large number of mutual friends? It could be law enforcement. Courts have generally ruled that information you voluntarily share online, even in a seemingly private message, isn't protected. So if an officer, posing as an old high school acquaintance, slides into your DMs and you start bragging about illegal activities, that conversation can absolutely become evidence. 6. They can set up a completely fake drug checkpoint to trick you into incriminating yourself. Picture this. You're driving down a highway and see a big, official-looking sign that reads, "Drug checkpoint 1 mile ahead." The real trick is that there is no checkpoint. The police are hiding before the location of the phantom checkpoint, and their goal isn't to search cars. Their goal is to watch for drivers who see the sign and panic. The moment someone makes an illegal U-turn or a sudden sketchy exit to avoid the checkpoint, that evasive action itself creates the reasonable suspicion needed for a traffic stop. It's a brilliant, legally approved psychological trap. 7. They can get your secrets from your phone company, your bank, or Google, often without you ever knowing. This is thanks to the third-party doctrine, a bizarre legal theory that says when you voluntarily give your information to a company, like your location data to a cell provider or your search history to Google, you surrender your expectation of privacy over it. It's like telling a secret to a friend, and the law concludes that your friend now has the right to tell that secret to any officer who asks nicely with a subpoena. That long, boring privacy policy you scrolled past? It was basically a permission slip. 8. They can trick you into giving consent for a search. An officer might say something like, "You don't mind if I take a quick look in your trunk, do you?" This isn't a command. It's a question. But the power dynamic of the situation makes many people feel obligated to say yes. Once you give that verbal consent, you've waived your Fourth Amendment rights for that specific search. They are banking on your politeness and your natural instinct to be cooperative, using social pressure as a constitutional key. 9. They can ram a fleeing car off the road even if it could kill the driver. Forget the pit maneuver. This is straight-up vehicular jousting. In Scott v. Harris, the Supreme Court watched dash cam footage of a cop blasting a suspect's car off the highway, leaving the guy paralyzed. Their verdict? Totally fine, because the suspect's driving was too dangerous. Translation: the Constitution decided one broken spine was a fair trade for traffic safety. 10. They can use your pre-arrest silence against you. This one is a mind-bender. We all know the phrase, "you have the right to remain silent." But what if you haven't been arrested and read your Miranda rights yet? In Salinas v. Texas, the Supreme Court ruled that if you are voluntarily speaking to the police and they ask you a question, simply staying silent can be interpreted as evidence of guilt. To protect yourself, you must explicitly say, "I am invoking my right to remain silent." You have to speak to claim your right to be silent. It's a legal paradox of the highest order. Should you really have to verbally announce your right to be silent, or should silence itself be enough protection? 11. They can place a GPS tracker on your car without a warrant, usually. While the Supreme Court officially declared that attaching a GPS device to your car is a search and requires a warrant, there's a massive car-sized loophole. If your vehicle is parked in a publicly accessible place, like a street or a Target parking lot, some courts argue that police don't need a warrant at all. Their logic hinges on the idea that you have no reasonable expectation of privacy in these locations. So while you're inside agonizing over which brand of toothpaste to buy, your car could be getting a state-sponsored stalker surgically attached to its underbelly, ready to broadcast your every move. 12. They can legally buy illegal goods as part of a sting operation. If you or I were to purchase illicit substances, we'd be facing serious felony charges. But if an undercover officer does it, it's considered a legitimate part of their job. This is protected by the public authority defense, a fancy legal term that essentially means the government has given them a hall pass to commit certain crimes in the name of catching bigger fish. It's less of a legal doctrine and more like a government-issued company credit card with a generous credit line for felonies, where successful acquisition of illegal goods looks great on a performance review. 13. They can get a warrant to secretly enter your home when you're not there, look around, and then leave without telling you for weeks or even months. It's called a sneak and peek warrant, and it turns the Fourth Amendment on its head. Instead of knocking, they slip in like ghosts, photograph your belongings, copy your computer files, and then slip out, leaving you completely oblivious. It's the ultimate violation of the "my home is my castle" principle, legally sanctioning a home invasion as long as they promise to send you a postcard about it later, usually right before the trial. 14. They can claim the smell of marijuana is probable cause to search your entire car. Even in states where cannabis is as legal and regulated as a craft beer, the faint lingering whiff of it can still be an officer's golden ticket. They can argue the smell suggests you have an illegal quantity, are driving impaired, or are transporting it illegally. This plain smell doctrine essentially turns an officer's nose into a warrant-generating machine. Basically, one subjective whiff and your Fourth Amendment rights go up in smoke, instantly transforming your private vehicle into an all-you-can-search buffet for law enforcement. 15. They are protected by qualified immunity, a legal shield that makes it incredibly difficult to sue them. To win a case against an officer, you must prove they violated a clearly established right. But here's the absurd catch. Clearly established means you have to find a previous court case with a nearly identical set of facts where an officer's actions were already ruled illegal. So if an officer violates your rights in a new or creative way, they can be immune from consequences. It's a legal doctrine that essentially says a mistake isn't truly a mistake until a judge has already said so in a nearly identical situation. 16. They can conduct a protective sweep of a home during an arrest. When police enter your home with a warrant to arrest you, they're allowed to perform a quick look around for their safety. The official reason is to ensure there are no immediate threats lurking nearby. You know, ninjas in your closet or an ambush party hiding under the sofa. But this safety check also gives them legal permission to spot anything incriminating that's out in the open. If, while searching for these imaginary assassins, they happen to spot a stack of freshly printed, slightly too green counterfeit bills on your coffee table, congratulations, that's now Exhibit A in a brand new federal case you definitely didn't see coming. 17. They can sometimes force you to unlock your phone with your face or fingerprint. This is where the law gets weirdly biological. A password or PIN code is considered testimonial evidence because it's something you know in your mind. The Fifth Amendment protects you from being forced to testify against yourself. But your fingerprint or your face? Courts have often ruled that those are physical evidence, like a key or a DNA sample. Therefore, police can legally compel you to unlock your phone using biometrics. Your thoughts are protected, but your own face can be legally used to betray you. 18. They can continue to question you even after you've asked for a lawyer. This is one of the most terrifyingly subtle loopholes in the Miranda rights. You've been arrested, you're in the interrogation room, and you say the magic words, "I want a lawyer." At that point, the police are supposed to stop questioning you. But the Supreme Court ruled in Bergheis v. Tompkins that if you then say anything else, literally anything at all, you may have implicitly waived your right to remain silent. The burden is on you to stay completely, utterly silent after invoking your rights. If they keep talking to you and you eventually answer a question, your right to a lawyer is considered waived. It's a brutal psychological waiting game where your own voice can be turned into a weapon against you. 19. They can hide the real source of their evidence using a process called parallel construction. Imagine police get a tip from a top-secret, legally questionable source, like a warrantless wiretap. They can't use that in court. So they use that information to build a second, completely separate investigation. They'll stage a routine traffic stop or get another officer to happen to find the evidence. This creates a clean, official story for where the evidence came from. It's essentially a form of evidence laundering, creating a fake paper trail to make an illegal discovery look perfectly legal. 20. They are not legally obligated to protect you from harm. Alright, brace yourself for the one that short-circuits most people's brains. The police have no constitutional duty to protect you, as an individual, from harm. The Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled that their obligation is to the public at large, not to any specific person. This means you can't sue them for failing to stop a crime, even if they were present. The motto, "To protect and serve," on the side of their car? Legally speaking, it's more of a corporate mission statement than a binding contract with you. It's the ultimate fine print, and it says individual results may vary dramatically. 21. If they find contraband in your car, they can sometimes attribute it to everyone inside. The constructive possession doctrine is a legal nightmare for passengers. Let's say you're getting a ride from a friend, and police find illegal items under a seat. Even if it's not yours and you had no idea it was there, if police believe you had knowledge of it and the ability to control it, you can be charged with possession right alongside the driver. It's a legal theory that can turn a simple carpool into a collective criminal conspiracy. 22. They don't have to read you your Miranda rights when they arrest you. This is the biggest myth TV has ever created. Those famous words, "You have the right to remain silent," are only required if the police arrest you and they want to interrogate you. They can arrest you, book you, and let you sit in a cell for hours without ever saying a word of it. The rights still exist, but the warning is a tool they use, not a script they must follow. It's a legal switch they flip only when they decide it's time for you to start talking. 23. They can park an empty police car on the side of the road just to scare you. That police cruiser you see lurking on the highway median, seemingly ready to pounce? It might just be a ghost. It's a completely legal and shockingly effective psychological trick. The unmanned car becomes a symbol of authority, forcing an entire highway of drivers to collectively slam on their brakes and check their speedometers. It's a scarecrow for speeders, a 2-ton piece of metal with the sole job of existing menacingly. 24. They can set up a fake business to lure people into committing crimes. Forget Silicon Valley. The hottest new startup in town could be an FBI front company. Law enforcement agencies can legally create and operate elaborate fake businesses, like pawn shops, shipping companies, or even encrypted communication platforms for the sole purpose of catching criminals in the act. They build a convincing facade, wait for people to use their services to fence stolen goods or plan illegal activities, and then drop the hammer. It's the only business model in the world where the customer is always wrong, and the company's primary goal is to send its clients to prison. 25. They can commandeer your car in an emergency. This sounds like a scene ripped straight from a cheesy 80s action movie, but it's a real, albeit incredibly rare, legal power. In some states, old posse comitatus laws are still on the books, which allow police to draft citizens for help. This can include demanding you hand over your keys to chase a suspect. It means that while you're on your way to pick up a pizza, your sedan could be legally deputized and sent screaming down the highway in pursuit of a fugitive. 26. They are allowed to use pain compliance techniques. This is a sterile, almost corporate-sounding term for something very simple. They can legally hurt you to make you cooperate. Tools like tasers, pepper spray, and certain joint locks are designed to inflict temporary but intense pain to gain control. The force is supposed to be reasonable, but it's a legal framework that essentially turns the human nervous system into a tool for de-escalation. It's like a corporate HR policy about forced cooperation, but with a lot more yelling. 27. Your roommate can give police permission to search your home, even if you'd say no. This is the legal trapdoor known as the third-party consent doctrine. If someone who shares common authority over a space, like a spouse or a roommate, consents to a search, the police can legally enter and look around, even without your permission. But it gets even crazier. In a Supreme Court case, police arrived at a door where a man said no to a search, while his girlfriend said yes. The man's no won. The police solution? They arrested him for an unrelated offense, removed him from the scene, and then came back to ask the girlfriend again. This time, her yes was all they needed. It's a constitutional veto power that can be legally overridden by a conveniently timed arrest. 28. They don't have to believe you when you say no to a search. If an officer asks to search your car and you refuse, they can't legally search it based on that refusal. But they can still hold you there and call in a K-9 unit. If the dog then alerts on your car, that alert creates a whole new legal reason, probable cause, to search the car, completely overriding your refusal. It's a legal checkmate where your no is just a temporary move, not the end of the game. 29. They can use illegally obtained evidence against you in court. Welcome to the mind-bending world of the inevitable discovery doctrine. Let's say police conduct a completely illegal search of your house and find crucial evidence. Normally, that evidence would be thrown out. But with this rule, prosecutors can argue that they would have eventually found it anyway through perfectly legal means, like a search warrant they were just about to get. It's the legal system's version of a do-over, a constitutional mulligan for violating your rights. It's a loophole that essentially says, yes, we broke the rules to find this, but we would have found it later anyway, so it counts. 30. They can arrest you based on information they don't personally have. This is called the fellow officer rule, or the collective knowledge doctrine, and it's a mind-bender. Imagine Officer A sees you commit a crime but is too far away to act. He radios Officer B, who is closer, and simply says, "Arrest the guy in the red jacket." Officer B can legally arrest you, even though he personally has zero knowledge of what you did. Think of it as a legal hive mind, or a Bluetooth connection for probable cause. It allows law enforcement to act as a single, all-knowing entity, even when the individual officer making the arrest is completely in the dark. 31. They can barge into your home without a warrant if they have a good enough excuse. The Fourth Amendment is supposed to make your home a fortress, but that fortress has a few legally mandated emergency back doors. They're called exigent circumstances. If police are in hot pursuit of a suspect who runs into your house, or if they hear sounds suggesting evidence is being destroyed, they can come in. Think of it as a constitutional fire alarm. In a true emergency, they are legally allowed to pull it and smash the glass to get inside your castle. 32. They can stop every single car at a sobriety checkpoint. At a DUI checkpoint, the normal rules of policing get a temporary suspension. Officers don't need any suspicion at all to stop you and ask a few questions. The Supreme Court decided the government's interest in preventing drunk driving is so high, it outweighs this minimal intrusion. Not all states allow these, but where they do, it's one of the few times you can be legally detained for simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's like a constitutional toll booth where the price of passage is a brief, suspicionless conversation with an officer. 33. They can stop and pat you down on the street based on a well-articulated hunch. This is the famous stop and frisk, and it runs on a lower-octane fuel than probable cause. All an officer needs is reasonable suspicion that you're involved in a crime and might be armed. What's the difference? Probable cause is having hard evidence. Reasonable suspicion is having a collection of facts that, when put together, just feel wrong. It's the law's official endorsement of a well-articulated gut feeling, allowing a brief, hands-on search of your outer clothing. 34. They can set up immigration checkpoints even 100 miles inland. There's a vast area, stretching 100 miles from every U.S. land and sea border, where the Fourth Amendment gets a little flexible. Within this zone, which is home to about 2/3 of the U.S. population, Border Patrol can legally operate checkpoints on any road. They can stop you and question you about your citizenship without a warrant or any suspicion of wrongdoing. It's not a Constitution-free zone, but it is a Fourth Amendment splash zone, where your rights to be free from random government stops can get seriously watered down. 35. Getting arrested comes with a free, mandatory search, but with confusing rules. It used to be that upon arresting someone in a car, police could search the entire passenger compartment as a free-for-all. The Supreme Court has since tightened that leash significantly. Now, they can only search the car's grab zone if the arrestee can still access it, or if it's reasonable to believe that evidence of the specific crime you were arrested for is inside the car. This turned a simple rule into a complex legal riddle that often gets figured out later in court. 36. If you're on parole or probation, your privacy rights are on a sliding scale. As a condition of staying out of prison, individuals on parole or probation often have to agree to waive some of their Fourth Amendment rights. The exact level of privacy you surrender depends on your specific user agreement with the state. Parolees often have virtually no protection from searches, while those on probation might retain some limited rights. For many, it turns their home into a constitutional open house, where an officer can stop by for an inspection at almost any time, no warrant required. 37. They can use deception to get your consent for a search, but there are limits. Police can legally use a ruse to get you to let them into your home, but there's a fuzzy and highly debated line. An undercover officer pretending to be a drug buyer is perfectly legal. But an officer pretending to have a warrant when they don't, or impersonating a gas company worker to investigate a fake emergency, often crosses the line into coercion. It's a form of constitutional catfishing where courts are constantly arguing over what counts as a clever lie versus a flat-out illegal trick. 38. In public schools, students' constitutional rights are seriously watered down. The Supreme Court has ruled that schools are a special environment where the normal rules don't apply. To search a student's backpack or locker, a school official doesn't need a warrant or probable cause. They only need reasonable suspicion of a rule violation. It's the Fourth Amendment Student Edition, a heavily edited version where the principal's need for order often outweighs an individual student's right to privacy. 39. They can use evidence against you that was found with a faulty, invalid warrant. This is the legal magic trick known as the good faith exception. Imagine police get a warrant, raid your house, and find evidence. Later, it turns out the warrant was completely invalid because of a typo or a judge's error. You'd think the evidence would be thrown out, right? Wrong. As long as the officers executing the warrant reasonably believed it was valid, the evidence is still admissible. It's a legal doctrine that essentially says the evidence is still good because the police's intentions were pure, turning a major constitutional error into a minor clerical issue that won't get in the way of a conviction. 40. They can use a drone to watch your backyard without a warrant. That persistent buzzing sound over your pool party might not be a hornet's nest. In many jurisdictions, police can legally fly a drone over your property, and your no trespassing sign means absolutely nothing to it. The legal argument is that since your yard is visible from public airspace, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. Your property line extends upwards only until it hits that airspace, which, thanks to modern technology, now starts about 50 feet over your head. So while it feels like a high-tech peeping Tom is crashing your barbecue, the law often treats it like a nosy bird with a 4K camera and a direct feed to the station. 41. They can lie to children during an interrogation. We've established that police can lie to adults, but what about kids? The legal green light still flashes. In most states, there are no laws preventing police from using the same deceptive tactics on a minor. They can lie about evidence, lie about what a friend said, and manipulate a child's still developing understanding of consequences. It's a legal area so unsettling that several states have recently passed laws to ban this practice. But in much of the country, the moment a minor enters an interrogation room, the normal rules of protecting children can be suspended. 42. They are allowed to use police dogs to sniff your car during a traffic stop. Here's a piece of legal gymnastics for you. The Supreme Court has ruled that a canine sniffing the outside of your car is not technically a search. The justification is that a dog's nose is a magical, contraband-only detection tool that doesn't violate your privacy because it only alerts to illegal items. In the eyes of the law, Fido is a furry, four-legged constitutional scholar with a superpowered nose that operates on a different legal plane than human senses. His sniff is considered an infallible, warrant-free piece of biotechnology until he sits down and makes things complicated. 43. An officer doesn't have to tell you that you're free to go. After a traffic stop is technically over and the ticket is written, there's often that strange, prolonged silence. An officer is not legally required to say, "You're all set," or "You can leave now." They can let that awkwardness hang in the air, leveraging the inherent power dynamic and your own politeness against you, hoping you'll nervously volunteer information or consent to a search. It's less law enforcement, more improv theater, and you're the only one on stage who hasn't been given a copy of the script. 44. They can use the plain view doctrine to search for things they weren't looking for. Let's say you get pulled over for a busted taillight. As the officer is talking to you, they shine their flashlight into your car and see illegal contraband sitting on the passenger seat. They didn't need a warrant to look there. The item was in plain view. This doctrine gives them the right to seize any evidence of a crime they can see from a lawful vantage point, effectively giving them a limited form of X-ray vision for the legally obvious. 45. An officer can be wrong about the law and your arrest can still be valid. We're all told that ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, that doesn't always apply to police. In the case Hyan v. North Carolina, the Supreme Court ruled that if an officer makes a reasonable mistake about what the law actually says, a traffic stop based on that mistake is still legal. So, an officer can pull you over for something that isn't actually a crime. and any evidence they find during that mistaken stop can still be used against you. 46. They can legally provide you with the tools and resources to commit a crime. The only thing police are forbidden from providing is the original criminal idea. As long as you are already predisposed to commit a crime, an undercover officer can become your most helpful yet treacherous accomplice. They can offer to supply the getaway car for a robbery you were planning or sell you the inert, fake materials for an explosive device you wanted to build. This sidesteps the entrapment defense. It's a bizarre legal tightrope walk where they can act as your co-conspirator right up until the exact moment they put you in handcuffs for the conspiracy they helped you plan. 47. They can track your car's location constantly using automated license plate readers. All over the country, police cars and streetlights are being fitted with high-speed cameras that automatically scan the license plate of every car that passes. This information, your plate number, the exact time, and the GPS location, is fed into a massive, searchable database. It's like your car's automatically checking in on a social media app you never signed up for. They can track your movements in real time or look back to see where you've been for weeks, all without a warrant. You're not just driving. You're generating a constant stream of location data for a government database you probably didn't even know existed. 48. They can use a device that turns your phone into a tracking beacon. It's called a stingray or a cell site simulator. This device pretends to be a cell phone tower, tricking every phone in a given area into connecting to it. This allows police to gather the unique ID and location of hundreds of phones at once, all without anyone knowing. It's like casting a massive digital net that scoops up the data of everyone in the vicinity, innocent or not, turning your phone's social butterfly nature into a tool for mass surveillance. 49. They can pull you over for a tiny infraction just to see if you're up to something else. This is a pretext stop, and it's a police superpower. Is one of your license plate lights burned out? Did you drift over the white line for a fraction of a second? That's all an officer needs to legally pull you over, even if their real reason is a vague hunch that you're a secret agent. As long as the initial violation is real, the Supreme Court says their hidden motive doesn't matter. It's the legal system's version of a friend saying, "I just came over to borrow a cup of sugar," when they really want to case your entire house. All right, we've covered 49 points and only one remains. But before we get to our final jaw-dropping number 50, it's time for the final verdict. Our final verdict is for the one rule so fundamentally wrong, it simply shouldn't exist. For us, that's number 20. The fact that police have no legal duty to protect you. Here's why. It exposes a crack in the entire foundation of policing. We grant officers immense power under the assumption that it's in exchange for our personal safety. But this rule reveals that legally, individual protection isn't guaranteed. It turns the motto, "to protect and serve," into a corporate suggestion, not a binding contract. But that's our verdict, and we want to hear yours. Which rule on this list do you think is so wrong it needs to be erased? Let us know in the comments. And now, our final number. 50. And for our final point, a tactic so psychologically brutal it's hard to believe it's legal. Police can lie to you about a loved one's fate to secure a confession. Imagine this scenario. Police tell a suspect that their spouse has already confessed to the crime and is facing a life sentence. They'll then present a twisted offer of chivalry. This is your only chance to save them. Tell us you did it, and we'll let them go. It reframes a confession not as an admission of guilt, but as an act of love and sacrifice. Or even more cruelly, they can target parental instinct. Imagine being told your teenage son is in the next room, refusing to talk, and is about to be charged as an adult co-conspirator. The only thing that can save him from the adult prison system, they'll say, is your full confession, right now. They create a terrifying artificial ticking clock, forcing a parent to choose between their own future and the perceived immediate ruin of their child's life. It's the absolute extreme of psychological warfare, turning the interrogation room into a torture chamber of the mind, where the truth becomes secondary to breaking a person's will. So there you have it. The biggest takeaway isn't just a list of bizarre rules, but the vast, unsettling canyon between what we assume is fair and what is actually legal. We've just covered 50 different ways the system can bend the rules, but we want you to answer one thing in the comments. Which of these rules was the one that made you stop and think, this isn't just a loophole, this is fundamentally wrong? If wrestling with these uncomfortable truths is why you're here, make sure you subscribe and activate notifications. The next rabbit hole we're going down is even deeper.